Awesome. Awesome. All right. So you've been to a bunch of these before. You know how this works. Use the chat, use the Q&A. What I'll do is we'll get through this whole thing and we'll ensure that at the end we touch on every single question. So kind of a bit of a drier topic this week, nothing flashy like releasing new standards or walking through, but I think it's very important that this questions and barriers seem to come up the most when it comes to do with credentialing and getting started. So this will be good. So today's authentication best practices, the whole concept of what's the best way to go about getting credentials, storing them, just the back and forth from a supplier, distributor, certifier perspective. So I am John Norris. I am the PromoStandards Education Work Group Leader. So I belong to one of our many, I think 7 committees that PromoStandards has under Amy's Membership Marketing and Education Committee. So real quick, it's important that we remember our mission here at PromoStandards. So we obviously collaborate to create industry-leading open standards. I think it's very important for us all. We continue to highlight on the open standards because it's a community-driven, membership-driven endeavor that enable industry participants to improve their customer experience, reduce transactional friction, and effectively execute their digital strategy, right? So I think there's been a lot of focus on the reducing transactional friction as of late. Obviously, that helps improve the customer experience. So let's keep this party going here. All right, if you've been living under a rock somewhere and you haven't heard, we are throwing, obviously, the industry's only dedicated technology event. It's going to be in sunny, beautiful Tampa. I should put the dates up here. I'm sorry. It's going to be first Sunday in October. We'll get to that in a second. But the best thing is Jessica's going to post a link here in the chat going through the details of the event. So Tech Summit is Sunday the 2nd through Tuesday the 4th, and linking into Wednesday the 5th with some other opportunities. So if you haven't registered, do it. It's going to be an awesome event. There's a lot of people registered. There's a lot of hype building around this event. I'm going to go through a few of the agenda pieces here today that I think are exciting. Digital transformation, collaboration, that's really what we do. If you are itching to get connected within the technology community and the industry, this is the one place to do it. I find it to be one of the more productive 3 days of my year where I can see everybody meet, and obviously the education components are huge as well. So go to PromoStandards, do that. One thing that has just transpired here in the last 24 hours, if you guys or people check your emails, we just sent out a letter from the chair where Eric Lessie detailed a lot of fluid pieces of our core values and mission, and really focused on inclusion. So we realized we had a scheduling snafu. So what we're going to do, and the details of all this are going to be spelled out very clearly. The website has been updated in terms of agenda, what we're doing, and I'm going to contact anybody with conflicts on this, but we're sliding over, doing a little bit of a shift. So the previous agenda was hackathon Sunday, Monday, crossover, everybody's together on Monday night, Tech Summit Monday PM through Wednesday AM. So we're changing that up. What we're doing is we're moving the hackathon event virtual. The awesome part about that is it allows people who weren't going to be able to send their teammates to participate. We're going to have those details out in the next 24 hours of what that entails. But essentially, we're going to run a virtual hackathon, but then do the presentations and awards in person on Sunday evening for the entire event. The Tech Summit itself now is going to pretty much go from Sunday night to Tuesday AM. So essentially a shift backwards by moving the hackathon virtual. Awesome part about this is we get to squeeze in an extra party. So there's going to be a fun evening on Sunday and a fun evening on Monday. That makes me happy. And then what we're going to do is after the culmination of the education summits, we're going to create 2 optional opportunities to get involved with PromoStandards. We're going to do a really cool tech volunteer event where we're partnering with local underprivileged organizations in the Tampa area and providing some tech services, some general volunteer services. We're going to get those details out here shortly as well. And then Wednesday morning, we're doing some optional open committees. PromoStandards is going to run all of our 7 committees are going to be meeting in person. And we're going to run open committees where if you're curious of getting involved, volunteering with our organization, you can see what I could put in the description of kind of how the sausage is made. So if you're curious how a technology or a tech standards committee meeting goes and what they do, they'll be conducting a live open committee meeting. Same thing with my education work group, same thing with the membership and marketing work group. If you're curious and you want to get involved, these are the places where you can sit in and participate and examine a live committee meeting, because this is where the real power of PromoStandards is. Awesome. Next part about this is we have locked in our keynote speaker. So our keynote speaker for the Tech Summit is going to be Andrew Larson, who's the director of data science at Fox Corporation. So this guy's pretty cool, entertaining, super smart, super bright, but he's going to really hone in on how organizations in our industry, the tools they can use today to take advantage of basic data science, advanced data science, and if this is way over your head, what you can start doing today to prep your organization for data science down the road. So this guy's really awesome. Raj from HIT reined this one in. He's a really cool speaker, so I'm looking forward to this one. Obviously, at the end of the day, we're gonna have fun. It's on like Donkey Kong. I want to thank obviously our Tech Summit sponsors. So big shout out to these guys here, Essent and Distributor Central, for stepping up at the ultimate sponsorship level. Facilis Group and CommonSKU, great sponsors of the event, and then Order My Gear, and then ASI is also a sponsor of this event. So we have some very large organizations backing this event, so it's going to be an exciting, fun time. So looking forward to it. All right, on to today's fun. So when I first started presenting on PromoStandards, 2015, I had this graph of all these interweaving lines of, this many-to-many relationship, because it was trying to figure out, to explain to everybody that there isn't a middleman, there is no, transactional middle layer. It's a peer-to-peer, many-to-many architecture. So that obviously is the architecture of PromoStandards, but presents interesting authentication challenges, because now on both sides, people have to have a very large sets of credentials, accessing those credentials, all the authentication parts. And then the other challenge is now you insert a lot of service providers in the middle, and now it just kind of exponentially expands. So this is what we're going to work on today. So we're going to kind of walk through the pros, cons, best practices, all this fun stuff. Get this party started. So essentially, this whole education session is centered around these 2 fields. So at the beginning of every single standard PromoStandards has, there is some sort of request that goes in. The request is either sent from a distributor or service provider to the supplier or whoever's hosting that endpoint, and they have to have 2 things. They have to have an ID and a password. Now, intentionally, I guess way back when this whole thing was started, the ID is obviously always required. The customer ID is any agreed upon ID as per the description, and oddly enough, the password is not required. Every best practice I'm going to recommend today is going to be to require a password. Now, the argument there is that if I just give you some crazy GUID ID and you're the only one who knows it, maybe I don't need both, just using a single key. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go out and say 99.9% of people consuming or publishing PromoStandards are requiring both. So this whole gig today, these 2 fields. Exciting, I know. So really, what is the authentication landscape? We kind of want to look at this today through the 3 different lenses, right? There's, in our world, PromoStandards world, we have suppliers that are handing out credentials, right? We have distributors who are acquiring, storing credentials, saving them to post them to suppliers' endpoints. And then you have this X factor, which is a lot of scale to it and a lot of quick ROI with PromoStandards adoption, the service providers. So you saw back on that sponsorship form that I had shown for the Tech Summit, we have some very significant large PromoStandards using service providers. So they are connecting thousands of distributors, users to suppliers' endpoints. Well, in order to do that, they have to somehow acquire thousands of credentials for each supplier, for each distributor, and it gets a large problem fast. So this is kind of the landscape that we're kind of going to discuss all of this. Really, if you over the experience, it's kind of the wild, wild west for how people are getting credentials today, right? We'll go through, I'm going to go through in detail the PromoStandards.org method to how to use our tools on our website. We find people are using PromoStandards.org member directory. So if you are a member of PromoStandards, you have a login to the website. Once you get logged into the website, the member directory shows up, and then you can search through the member directory, find the technical contact that person directly, and then chase down credentials that way. We, at least at Starline, sometimes you'll get, from the sales department, people asking for PromoStandards credentials because they don't know who to contact. The good thing is, those of you who are members, which should be most of you here today, members have access to the member directory. You can skip the whole sales cycle and just go right to the technical people that are going to sign your credentials anyway. We're seeing distributor pool emails where, it's, hey, email me back, give me some credentials. We're seeing people pushing content out saying, hey, put your credentials in here on this form. Portals have become all the rage lately, so that's good. Suppliers are being proactive in sending credentials, and then there's the kind of gray area that is where Angel's Fear to Tread is the old Excel list of credentialing back and forth. So we're gonna go through some of these things, just kind of walk through the process and kind of see if we can flush out some how-tos of getting credentials. You would think that getting credentials is pretty simple. I've been doing this for 7 years, 6 years. This is the constant headache. The standards are awesome. They provide great access to streamline your operations and to your customer experiences. But if you can't get a username and password, it's kind of useless. So it's kind of back to basics today. So once you log in, the old PromoStandards.org website, you get the resources menu option shows them. So the first thing I would do, this is my preferred way to get credential access from PromoStandards, is you go right to the PromoStandards endpoint listing. So what that's going to do, it's going to bring you to this page. So PromoStandards hosts every single supplier, hosts a directory of every single supplier's production endpoints, dev endpoints, and a lot of contact information. So once you get to this endpoint listing, we have, you can search for your nifty favorite supplier. I happen to choose my company. So you go in there, type in Starline, and now next to every single endpoint listing, we see this little red locking key, or key, I guess. So the concept here is, and I'm going to get to this when we talk about suppliers, there is a possibility that a supplier could have different credentials for different services. I would say it's super rare and it's super annoying for people who are doing this. I would say 99% of the community has one set of credentials. My advice to suppliers, if you need to have that, for example, Staples can only access my inventory, handle that on your side. Don't make that their problem. That's something you should control internally and not make somebody store 1,000 different credentials per service. So do it at I would say 99% of all suppliers and service providers that are handing out credentials are doing it at the company level, not at the service/endpoint level. Either way, fire up the red key there, click that little button, and what it's going to do, it's going to bring you to a form. What we try to do here, and I'm going to show this in a second, PromoStandards does not directly hand out credentials, right? It is the responsibility of the two trading parties of consuming and publishing data to get their credentials. We don't want to store credentials. We don't want to be any part of that. It's just best if the credential processing happens direct in our peer-to-peer network. But what we try to do is make a community. We try to streamline the communication process to ensure that you're getting to the right person quickest who can hand you out credentials. So you fill out this information, name, email, all this fun stuff. We have some industry identifiers. We tend to find that if you put your ASI number, PPAI number, PPC number, all that fun stuff, it's sometimes for a person trying to assign you credentials, it just makes it a little easier. And it also kind of shows that you're a legit player in the industry. So what that does, it generates two emails. There's the email on the supplier side. So if I went out, I'm signed as our account admin, So when somebody fills out a request for credentials, I get an automated email. Everybody in my organization who wants to be signed up and get these emails that's managed through our website, they get this email. It says, blah, 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 this person wants to get credentials. Now it's my responsibility to take Kevin Burnett's contact information here and respond back to him directly, not through PromoStandards, right? Like I said, this is a peer-to-peer GitHub. Now, if you're sending a credential request, you also get an email confirmation. What we found is that, oddly enough, people are not overly responsive to emails. So what we do is, if you fill out one, then it says, hey, your email was sent successfully. If you don't hear back from the people, here's the contact information for the contacts that PromoStandards has on file for this organization. So we're trying to ensure that we're pointing you in the right direction. This stays up to date with the most recent contacts. Jessica, our admin, helps manage this. So this is just a good way to stay, in the loop. So if you use these PromoStandards mechanisms, I would say this is your highest rate of success to do the matchmaking of credentialing. So that's my number one tip there for right now. All right. So let's get into some best practice. So we're going to go through, like I said earlier, there's the 3 lenses I want to talk about. Now, obviously, if you're on either side of this, it still matters because you're trading data and trading credentials with these people. So we're going to go through a few best practices on both sides of it: supplier, distributor, service provider. I'm going to show a quick example, and then we're going to be off to the races here. Complex passwords. There are many distributors, if you try to use a crappy password, they will reject it, right? So this is just good life advice. Don't just use a simple password. I barked on this a few minutes ago. Use the same set of credentials for all services. Now, this is not a PromoStandards rule, but I would say it's super annoying if you decide to go this route. Like I said, my advice there is you handle the access per endpoint on your side, not theirs. We see this a lot, right? People will send out credential requests and then they just sit on them, or there's not a timeliness to this. Like, if you want to connect with the most people, I guarantee you those who are quickest and on top of credentialing are going to be higher up the priority list of implementations. So if you have your supply chain and you're getting random requests, but you're responding to those, that facilitates a better relationship and a better user experience with PromoStandards. Also, if you're a supplier hosting endpoints, maybe just try it out, right? Go onto the site, put in some test requirements, test information, and request credentials from your organization. If you find out nobody's getting that email, definitely contact Jessica. She's admin at PromoStandards. She's in Slack as admin. She can help you kind of make sure that the right people are getting the right emails. One thing we see a lot here, and I guess we're kind of guilty of this, is we'll sometimes add credentials to a production environment, but not add them to a dev environment, or not keep them in sync. Just communicate that up front, but ensure that if you are providing both those environments, either provide separate sets of credentials or the same, but just ensure that they're up and running on both sides. A lot of times I'll see suppliers will provide you a set of credentials, and then once you're ready to go live, they'll be like, here's your production credentials. However you want to handle it, just remember you have 2 environments that you're trying to authenticate for. And then I think the most important is don't assume that everybody's going to take your credentials. Some people all they need is your credentials. Like, give me your username and password. I know what I'm doing. Have that communication back and forth with people you're trading data with, trading credentials with. Onboarding guards, I've probably said this in just about every education session. Ensure that you have some sort of either quick start page, documents for getting going with your organization. Yes, PromoStandards has a set of standards and documents for how to exchange data, but let people know who to contact when something comes up. Let people know, what you prefer as your best practices and your data exchange frequency. So that's that. All right, so let's flip over to the distributor side. Like I said, I think the easiest path of least resistance is using the built-in credential request tools that we have on PromoStandards.org. There are very few people who do this, and it comes back to bite everybody or bite people when it comes to placing POs. I recommend that people, as purely, I guess my opinion, try to get account numbers from suppliers. We'll find from time to time that a individual set of credentials represents two different accounts in our system. But when we see POs coming in, one of the fields we like to see on there is the account number. It allows us to, obviously your username is tied to account number, but if there's those exceptions where usernames are tied to multiple account numbers, having that account number is just another way for us to verify, especially PO placement. Like the account number is really only exists in that request. If there's, I think, shout out to him again. Erwin at Halo is very stringent on his passwords that he'll accept. If you have a cracked password, they just won't accept it, and they'll tell you. And then same thing. Yes, passwords are optional, but I don't know. I wouldn't accept them. I would push back and say, hey, yo, like, let's tighten this up a little bit. Send a document with your onboarding expectations when you're exchanging your credentials. So Halo started this 5 years ago, 6 years ago, literally went through the order status, order shipment notification services and said, when you integrate with us, we expect you to provide this data, right? We expect you to provide this type of password. This is the kind of SLA type experience that we expect. So that's super helpful. So now I know. One thing we're seeing as of late, if you develop a portal via URL for credentialing, you'll have more success. It's more of that push, right? If I get an email that says, give me your credentials and put them in here, now the onus is on me as a supplier, right? I need to go and crank in your credentials there. We're seeing a lot of vendor agreements with PromoStandards credentialing baked into it. A lot of times there'll be a form in a vendor agreement that says put your credentials into here, right? That tends to, those vendor agreements are very heavily read, scrutinized, and passed around organizations, and that's always a great way to just ensure you're getting credentials there. Don't just have some random person try to track down your credentials. I think we found a lot of successes when it's at least somebody on the IT technical side of the operations are doing this. They tend to know how to address problems when they go awry. And then follow up. While you shouldn't have to follow up to integrate with somebody, it happens. Just stay on top of your supplier partners, all your vendors, to kind of get you the credentials you need when you need them. Service provider. So there's that big middle layer that we have, and you get suppliers on one side, distributors on the other side, and this huge like gray blur of service providers providing so many different services. If it's Essent, CommonSQ, Facilis, all that's they're in one side of it. Then you get the Zoom crew, right? They're providing a whole different level of experience. But this is kind of that whole group we're talking about. So one thing that we recommend as PromoStandards is suppliers are going to expect you to be able to prove that you represent an organization. Some of it's given, but we see from time to time, so ASI in their user agreement has people agree to an agent agreement that says like ASI can represent you on behalf, for your tech needs, blah, 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 a lot of legal jargon. But at the end of the day, if you're a service provider, I need to know that you have the legal authority to represent the distributors you represent, right? Because I, as a supplier, don't want to be on the hook for just willy-nilly handing out people's data. So many large suppliers and entities will expect you to have some sort of agreement in place, or have the distributors themselves pump the credentials into your system. So it's a bit of the wild west. I know some of the largest entities are like, look, we'll give the credentials to the distributor, but then they have to put them in your system. We're a little different, but I just say, make sure you have your, I guess, legal T's crossed and I's dotted. It makes this whole process pretty easy. Not everybody is as particular, but for anybody handing out your data, you're going to want to make sure that they've got their stuff in order. All right, so when we get requests, some of the biggest things we need to verify who this company is. I'm going to show an example of this in a second. So if you are a service provider saying, hey, distributor X wants credential Starline, well, you need to then go in and it's like, give me something that I can verify that you actually are legit representing distributor X. So full address, we like to see a PO number, like the last PO number they submitted and a PO amount. That allows us to do a quick cross-reference when we're signing. So if somebody gives us a list of 100 distributors they represent, what we'll do is say, hey, well, give us the last PO number, give us a PO dollar amount. That allows us to do a quick cross-match. Odds are, if you have their PO numbers and you have their PO amounts, you're very much representing their order process, and PromoStandards integration is going to serve everybody well. So this obviously kind of 3 and 4 go together, right? So try to get a generic account for your basic data. If you're just looking for product data 2.0, product data 1.0, even PPC, if you don't pass in distributor pricing or the customer pricing, you can get by with just one generic account. But there are services, PPC, PO, Invoice, OS, and OSM, which require each distributor, each service provider to have that pairing between supplier and distributor. So when you're building out your architecture, if you haven't already, keep this in mind, right? You need unique credentials for each supplier distributor combo. That's the thing. What we're seeing is number 5 is being very much widely adopted. Building a portal or push mechanism, put the responsibility back on the supplier. Look, I have a person here in my organization every month, they go out and log into these portals, see who's missing credentials, who we need to update, who we need to turn off. There's a whole process here to make sure that we're, keeping our authentication game in order, but put that onus on us. It's in our best interest to drive integrations, right? Just realize that. Us as being the supplier community, sorry, put my PromoStandards hat back on. I might get some flack for this. If you have a large list of users, just kick over an Excel file, send an Excel file with all the authentication information that you need. So open, point number 2 there, send all that stuff over, we'll populate it and kick it back to you. It might take a few days to process that, but these are just good, things that we're seeing in the world. This is happening every day. People are trying to figure out, how do I get all these sets of usernames and passwords to you? And real quick shout out to the old commonsku crew. Might catch flack for this too, but I think they do this the best. They provide you a portal to literally manage your entire sets of credentials. They say, here's your last PO number, here's the PO number value. They kind of give you all the details you need to make this work. They allow you to click on a distributor. So this exists in the wild. Just know it's out there. And if you are using these people, log in and check to make sure that you have all your distributor partners credentialed properly. So if you're on the technical side, you're probably screaming right now. You're like, well, what the hell? Why are we not using OAuth or single sign-on? SSO, not SSL, sorry. All right, well, here's the skinny. OAuth is not a technical problem, right? Any party on the dev side probably could get a OAuth server set up in 8 to 16 hours and we'd be up and running with OAuth, right? It's not a technical problem. It's really, in our industry, it's an identity and trust problem. We have the relationship between suppliers, distributors have sales reps. Many sales reps have their own account numbers with suppliers, and it's verifying that distributor sales rep X has access to this distributor, to this service provider, to this supplier. That identity of who actually is who and handing out that initial trust and verifying that trust is kind of the skinny here. So one thing that PromoStandards has done is we have a work group that's exploring these. We're actually looking at a third-party solution or using an outside firm. We don't want to be part of, it's very sensitive, right? Like PromoStandards is a group of volunteers, 501c6. We don't want to have our hands in the username and password pot. Like that's not what we do. We're a standards body. Now, we also need to reduce transactional friction within the standards process to get better credentialing. So we are going to look at outside firm to either develop or a service to use that can help us explore how an OAuth solution would work for our industry. It's not a slam dunk that we will adopt it, but we, like we've done a lot of maturing as an organization over the years, and there are solutions out there. We just have to ensure that it's the right one, and that it'll be adopted, right? Just because there's a solution out there that's awesome doesn't mean it'll be adopted. We had at one point an authentication service through PromoStandards, and it was awesome. Thing worked beautiful. It just had very low adoption because of the complexities of the service. So stay tuned. We'll probably provide an update at the end of the year at our member meeting. So for those of you who are members, we have a year-end member meeting probably in January. So we'll make sure that we address that when we can. Kind of wrapping up here. I don't know, like PowerPoint designs do all this cool stuff by themselves. So authentication is simple, right? It's username and password, but for some reason, once we get all the humans involved, it gets more complicated. The transactional pieces back and forth. So yeah, so just follow up, make sure you're responding to those requests you get for credentials. I guarantee the more aggressive you are, the more successful you'll be with PromoStandards. So our organization here is very aggressive in assigning credentials and doing the follow-up and ensuring that we're onboarding properly. If you take those steps, PromoStandards becomes a lot more powerful in your organization, and you become a much easier organization to work with. Real quick, wrapping it up here. Like I said, we're going exactly 30 minutes. We do this, PromoStandards U, every third Tuesday of every month. We were going to skip out to September, but we're going to slap one in here for next month. We're going to do a focus on the Tech Summit. We're going to have a panel of some panelists here, really talking about kind of a preview of the content and how you can maximize your experience at the in-person event. So it'd be kind of a Tech Summit prep. Like I said earlier, go online, go to PromoStandards.org. Jessica's posted a link, but check it out. Definitely register if you haven't. It's going to be a pretty sweet event. Hold on, stop sharing. I'm going to go through some. Looks like there's some chat and Q&A. So it looks like Jessica's been on top of the chat. All right, so Jessica's got that. But yeah, so if you have any questions of any of this, hit me up. Go to the general channel. You can hit me up directly in Slack. But yeah, thanks everybody for attending. Like I said, it's gonna be a short and sweet one today. Register for the Tech Summit. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great networking educational event. So peace out, everybody. Have a great one. It's good to see you, and we'll see you in person in early October. Later.